I will call the Board of Selectmen as well as the Police Chief Screening Committee to order on Monday, February 10th, 2025. And as a reminder, this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Peter, can you just pass that down? Thank you. So, Brendan, I'm going to have us move into the Police Chief Screening Committee conversation so that we can put that.
So the first thing on that agenda is the approval of both the regular and executive session minutes for the meetings of January 15th, 16th, 17th, and 31st. And I would make a motion for the committee to approve those minutes.
Second.
And all those
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, it's the
Just the Police
screening
Chief
committee.
Screening Committee.
Oh, paying attention.
So those now become public?
No.
No, these
Okay.
are executive
Not the
session.
executive. I mean,
Until done?
Maybe not ever.
Maybe never,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
They have names in them, and those will not be released.
And so with respect to the announcement of names of finalists recommended for final public interviews before a future board of the Board of Selectmen, I want to explain that the preliminary screening committee received a total of 14 applications. The 5 of those applications did not meet the minimum standards that have been defined in the job announcement, mostly because those applicants, although having a lot of experience in New Hampshire, did not have a lot of experience in Massachusetts, and we were looking for at least 10 years. So of the remaining 9, 7 of the candidates were external and 2 of the candidates were internal. The preliminary screening committee did utilize the services of an expert to help set up the process, the questions that were asked, the discussion points that were discussed in follow-up interviews, and was there to review some of the responses of the applicants. The preliminary screening committee arrived at 1 external candidate and 1 internal candidate for future public interviews by the Board of Selectmen. The internal candidate is Sergeant Tom Shamshek, and the external candidate is Lieutenant David Costa. They both know that we were going to announce their names this evening, and it's really now up to the board as to when you want to schedule a meeting to have the interviews of these candidates and then make a decision from there.
Sooner the better.
Generally speaking, so when we've done interviews in the past, when we've done them for the town accountant, the town clerk, we generally do several times now, we do them first thing in the morning on a Friday morning. I know that, I don't remember if it's 7, 7:30, 8, but we usually do them in the morning, and the public's still invited, but it's early so that we can kind of do it before we start our workday. We've never done them at a Board of Selectmen's meeting in the evening, so. Because it can be lengthy. I mean, it could be an hour, it could be a long period of time,
Right.
so we want to give ourselves plenty of time to do a proper interview.
And so I would like to know, how did it work out with having that third-party person to assist?
Worked out really well, and you know, one of the things that we found was after we did an initial round of interviews and we took our notes, we asked this person to come and look at things without us saying anything. And a lot of his observations matched what we had already come to,
Good.
which was very confirmatory. And then he was actually in the room during the follow-up matters and was very helpful in looking through the different candidates.
I'm agreeing, you know, the sooner the better. There's a part of me that says if the 3 of you came to a high-level agreement on one of them, do we need to? But at the same time, I think optics, it looks good that we do have, you know, an interview with the 3 select board.
Okay, so if that's your preference, do you want to look at a particular date?
The only, Wednesdays I have an early morning, well, no, I could probably do it because I don't have to be in Gloucester till 9. So any day of the week is fine if you do it in the morning.
How are you looking? I know that your travel schedule's busy,
I
so.
don't have my schedule with me right now, but I'm thinking Friday morning at 8 would
I was
work.
just going to say, can we do this Friday, the 14th?
I think
Yes,
so.
8 o'clock.
I'm here, yeah.
I can let you know immediately. I can
Tentatively.
go downstairs.
Tentatively
and-
Friday, the 14th? Yep. We know one of the candidates that will work for.
Do you want me to go get my schedule? I think it's in my car, and I can confirm it.
No, because we're going to go into executive session. What we can do is at the end of the meeting, if you want to run out, and then just
Yeah, yeah.
shoot us a
Yeah, yeah.
text and we'll
Right.
all
So
know.
you're talking about this coming
This coming
Friday,
Friday.
8 AM.
8 a.m.
And you want to do, and it's public, and you want to do what? And what, how do you want to space it out? Because,
How do you, so
well, so
I'm not going to necessarily have a lot of questions. I've asked,
Yeah, and that's one of the things
Hours
that I
worth.
did want to just bring up. It's, because we've been involved with it via meeting notes and, process. I know that you did over 56 questions. That's, I think I told BZ that if I went into an interview and saw 56 questions, I would have said, okay, yeah, I'm done. So I know that you did your due diligence. So I do feel like we have done a lot, and I think I don't know that we need more than 30 minutes to
30
get a
minutes
sense
each.
of how,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. I think you were very, very thorough.
yeah.
So why don't we schedule the first one for 8 and the second one for 8:45 so that we can have 15 minutes between each candidate to deliberate?
Okay.
which would be an open session.
It's
So
open
it would be
session.
by courtesy if the
Absolutely.
candidate decided to step out or step in. or-
Second
Yeah.
floor?
And the
Yeah.
candidates can both be in the room while we ask
Yeah.
questions, so they
Yeah.
can both come at the same time. I mean, we'll post it as a regular meeting starting at 8 o'clock, and we can bring them each to the
And do you
table.
have a preference for which candidate to invite in first, or, because it's only 2 here?
Does anyone have a preference?
Check with the other person to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say, why don't we bring in
They're coming from New Hampshire.
Lieutenant, no,
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 then-
he's local.
Oh, okay.
The first candidate at 8, the lieutenant at 8 and sergeant at 8:45.
Okay. Very good. We'll set this up.
I'm really excited.
So am I. Okay, moving on to other business. Do you want to go into the town administrator report?
Yes. Just an update on if we're going to be able to test the senior center elevator on generator under full load. The DPW is willing to try that. Right now, I think we're waiting for another order of ice melt bags. They're 50 pounds each. 50 of those will be the full load. And so we're going to try that as soon as we get the things that we need to put in. And we have time on this.
BZ, can I actually pause you, and can I move over to the harbor master so that I can
Of
let them
course.
leave? So, harbor master Fialo, you're on the agenda with 2 items this evening. Bear with me. So, under other business, we have a vote to accept a donation from the Canoma Point Association to the Harbor Master Gift Fund in the amount of $1,533. So as the board will recall, the Canoma Point Association did I want to call it a poker night. I don't remember what it was, but it was a fundraiser evening. And all of the profit that was raised through that fundraiser, they divided it 4 ways. A quarter went to the police department, a quarter went to the fire department, a quarter went to the harbor master department, and a quarter went to the sailing club. So the harbor master department does not yet have a gift fund set up. So it takes a vote of the Board of Selectmen to allow for the gift fund to be created, which is done through the accounting office to accept the gift, and then it goes in there. So does anybody have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the Harbor Master Gift Fund donation in the amount of $1,533.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Dan, join us.
BZ, I think there is a gift fund.
You have to go to the 6 inches from that microphone, Dan.
I think there is a gift fund already in place. I'm
If
not-
there is, which I don't recall, but if there is, then it's just a redundancy.
Okay.
Okay.
And what type of stuff does the gift fund get used for? Equipment?
Generally, it's equipment or
Okay.
buoys.
Be used for, I think, anything.
Yeah, I don't like anything. I
Yeah.
don't like anything, so narrow it down to,
I would use it for equipment.
Okay.
But it's a very general fund.
okay.
I haven't, it's accumulated, it hasn't been, I know previous to me there was a balance. I don't know what that balance is, but
All right.
In anything that it is used to fund, a receipt is still submitted because it comes out of the fund. So we see, it's just like when the police department has a car show and they use their gift account to buy T-shirts, we see that come through on the weekly warrant. Yep. Thank you. You can actually stay because I don't know that we have a lot to say, but next on the agenda is to vote to appoint John Ryan. Did you want to say a couple of things about John?
I brought John tonight. I did have his application if anybody wanted to look at it. Interviewed him, talked to a few references. I know the town's kind of leaving it open-ended right now as to the future of the Harbor Master Department, but I'm kind of operating as status quo. My appointment is through July, so hopefully that's at least honored if things change. But John seemed like a great candidate. He's got plenty of seat time. He's retired and a local voter. So I thought he'd be a good addition to the department based on his resume. So I would recommend him to be appointed as an assistant.
Thank you. So I will entertain a motion to vote to appoint John Ryan to the position of Assistant Harbor Master for a partial 3-year term ending 6/30/2027, contingent upon successful completion of drug and medical testing.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
John, oh, hang on.
If we picks it up, yeah.
So, John, you'll coordinate your drug and medical screening through the town administrator, and then after you've done that, he'll reach out to you to let you know that you've successfully passed it, and you'll come back into the building to meet with the town clerk on the first floor to get sworn in and get your appointment card.
Okay.
Okay? Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to your report.
So the next item in my report just has to do with a meeting that Chairman Perrine pulled together that included the chair of the Finance Committee and the chairman of the Board of Public Works, just to talk about the future. We know that the current superintendent is probably looking at a retirement in the near future, and it's important to start thinking about the process for replacement, staffing in general, staffing versus outsourcing, what are their operational needs, what are their upcoming capital needs. And so we really had a very broad conversation about these things coming up. And the chairman acknowledged that, yes, there'll be a lot of change and a lot of review will be necessary to make sure that as there's a changing of the guard, things are done in the best way, in the best interest of the town and the Board of Public Works. I don't know if anyone has any questions or you have anything, but.
Nothing to add. I think you covered it. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I just, as always, I always like to make sure that we're seeing what other towns are doing and making sure that we're not going either outside or staying too focused, like to understand what other towns are doing and
Do you mean by
responsibilities and,
Are you talking about by way of a job description to fill the position?
yeah.
That was part of the discussion.
Okay,
And
great.
the chair of the DPW took the job description as it sits today and was going to start doing some research on what they'd like to see.
Perfect.
Next, we have the school district budget hearing and meeting summaries. So on February 4th, there was the final budget hearing of the school committee, and just prior to that, the budget had been put out with a 4.93% overall increase to the apportionments, so the money that's charged to the two towns, which translates to a 5.68% increase to the town of Essex, just over $560,000.
Can
But-
you say that number again, a 5 point what?
5.68%. So that's what the school committee came to the hearing with. But then they announced promptly that that same day, they had heard back from their insurance provider, and the insurance increase came back at 26.9%, whereas the budget with the 5.68% to Essex only had carried a 10% increase for health insurance. The 26.9% increase translates to an additional $699,000 that was not carried in the original budget.
When
So,
does that number get firmed up? When is the insurance number there?
well, they have it now, except for the fact they don't really want to accept it. They want to go out to bid
Right, yeah.
to see if they can get it lowered, but that is the number.
That,
That
okay,
is
so
the
that's,
number.
that's not necessarily gonna change.
If
It's
they
not the
can't-
insurance company that's going up and down, that's their number, and if the school committee can get a different bidder,
Then they might see some
they change.
some
Okay,
improvement.
okay.
And had they already gone out to bid?
They have done that on a pretty frequent basis.
I know, I mean, I know when Avi was there, when I was on the school
Sometimes it was
committee,
every
since
year.
then, he would look to see, you know, check out, see what others are doing, you know. But, so I mean, at this point, you would have, I guess I would have thought you had something in your back pocket in case it came in too high.
I don't know inside the organization what they've looked at
Right,
yet,
right,
but
okay.
they are going to look now, and it's still possible, is what we're told, that the number will come down through a different provider.
Okay.
What's the timing on that, would you guess?
I'm guessing that it will be,
We
they're
have a month?
hoping to know more about the situation prior to March 18th.
And they did say that they sent it out to a brokerage firm to do the research on getting quotes in, and they also have an in-person meeting with Maya on February 25th. So they do have something set up, so we should know something.
And they were going to vote on the budget on March 4th, but in recognition of this and other issues, they're going to hold that off until March 18th, which still works with all the town meeting warrants and schedules, et cetera. We discussed that. Now, if you add the $699,000 in, okay, that brings the overall increase to 7.59%, with an Essex apportionment increase of 8.61%, which is just over $850,000. Without the use of the $500,000 in reserves, which is part of the budget right now, the increase with the 699 would have been up at 10.53%, which is over $1 million to the town of Essex. 9.5% overall, 10.53 to Essex, just over $1 million. So at this point in time, it would seem that the town is going to need to consider an override for the school. And if that's the case, the town may want to consider an override for town operations as well. Now, we can talk more about that when we get to the draft warrant. But I don't know if you have questions about the school situation presently.
No, it's pretty drastic.
Very drastic.
Very difficult. It's going to be very difficult. Okay.
And we're pretty much feeling like regardless, it's probably going to require an override, is that correct?
So they're at the 561, the original 4.93 overall increase, which ended up translating to a 5.68 to Essex, which was $561,395.
Which is a 10% health insurance
Which
increase.
was a 10% health insurance.
Let's say they could magically get back to 10%.
That was still $44,000 more than we have in our Prop 2.5, as well as all of our new growth.
That's
So
if we
it's
put it all toward the school.
everything toward the
Without any
school.
municipal.
Right, which we can't do.
No, you
No,
can't.
you can't.
So we would need an override to be able to
matter
support both the town and the school.
Right.
Or to support the school, the town. It is part of the town to be able to support the school.
Right, so the fair way is to take your Prop 2.5, basically, since the school is 50% of our budget, cut the Prop 2.5 in half and give a 1.25 to the town and 1.25 to the
A little
school.
more than 50.
And so,
It's
and we do
52.
have, I mean, so from what I'm seeing is, and I'm not on the FinCom committee, but we have some new growth happening in town. So will that come to fruition after 26 budget is complete?
No, we already know what our new growth number is.
Okay.
But how that new growth number is going to be used is going to be the deciding factor, because we have 2 contracts to settle,
Right.
and that could take care of the town side to potentially not need an operational override. We
Okay.
need to see how this shakes out.
And that's what I was trying to understand is, how close are we?
What is the new growth number?
120,
I don't have that right at my fingertips, but yeah, in that neighborhood.
100 plus
I can actually tell you what it is. Hang on one second.
And that's based on building permits that went out? Is that how they work it for the new growth?
Yeah, it's, if there was a new housing start, if there was a substantial addition or renovation, something like that.
And why I was asking is because I don't know any of them will be complete by May, so that's why I was wondering, is that this year that it goes in, or is it when the project is
It's
complete?
actually, new growth is actually certified when they set the tax rate, so.
And our new growth number is 143,000 and some change. And Prop 2.5 is 372, which was our grand total of 517.
Which the 561 is more than that combined.
Right, oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry. Trying to get a grasp on it.
Okay, so now the next thing I have is the Northeast Coastal Coalition meeting. Senator Tarr coordinates this group, and the last meeting we had was on January 27th. It was extremely well attended. We had all tables set up all the way around here, and all the chairs were full. I talked about an update on the Essex dredging project, and our grant application that will be going in soon for the Causeway study. And then there were a number of other initiatives that were brought to the table. But I always like to do an update when we have one of those. And then the last thing on my report is the preliminary town meeting warrant. And before I go through the warrant, I want to talk a little bit about the various budget items, because that's one of the warrant items, one of the warrant articles, that were on your annual town meeting list of topics. You won't see them there anymore because they've been incorporated into, or will be incorporated into the budget.
That's what I was trying to understand, how this came about.
And so we have the upgrade of the Microsoft Office 365, that's been put into the budget. The funding that the town would pay for a second lifeguard out at Canomo Point. An increase to the town hall HVAC maintenance budget. Blanket insurance line to deal with higher insurance costs. The town hall, library, and senior center annual sprinkler inspection and testing, making sure that that amount is properly funded for the next year. Electricity budgets, making sure that those get increased properly. We had a mid-year increase, but we have to continue that in the new fiscal year. And then the salary for the town clerk that was discussed at the last meeting. I'm tracking things like maintaining a small budget line for the planning board advertisements for when they do zoning public hearings. But as you know, we're looking at, when we look at the warrant, we're looking at an article to set up some revolving funds for the hearings that are funded by private applicants.
So would we have to do that for each board if they needed that kind of thing, or would we just set up one for all boards, meaning advertisement?
It's better to set up separate ones.
Okay,
because they all have different needs, but we're talking about one for the zoning board, for the Conservation Commission, and for the planning board.
So Brenda, is the sprinkler system a contingency fund, or is it in case there's some problem, or is it to actually do the testing? Do we
It's to
have to
actually
pay-
do the testing.
we
So
have to
we had
pay
a,
that?
yes.
Yeah.
And we've been told we need to do it annually now, and so we had to increase. It's not a lot of money, but the line item was really funded just to deal with any maintenance needs that came up, but now we have an active inspection
Yeah.
situation. Let's see. And then something that I sent out just today, so it's not even in the budget yet, I'm tracking it. We're looking at our website platform being upgraded because it's on the Drupal platform, and that was Drupal 7, and it was going to be upgraded at no cost to Drupal 10 because 7 was going end of life. And our website vendor, which covers really pretty much all the websites in our area, if not in the state, started to do these migrations in other states, and it was so not successful that they're not going to do any migrations in Massachusetts to Drupal 10. So what they're saying is, well, you know, we're going to just standardize it all on our platform, which is known as Central, and there'll be a way to upgrade to their standard version of Central and then their premium version of Central. We won't even know how much that's going to cost until the end of this month, we're told. There may even be a way to keep the Drupal 7 kind of limping along, but I don't recommend that because it won't be supported. It would just be,
Right.
okay, you still have your website. One thing that they did say is towns that upgraded to Central before this, just on their own, had to pay a certain amount of money. We'll probably get upgraded to Central if we want to do that at half that price, because they told us that they were going to upgrade Drupal and they didn't. We're kind of left in the lurch. So until we have numbers, it's hard to say. You know, another thing is we could search for a different website vendor, but like I said, they're fast becoming the standard in the state and in the country. But we'll look at all that at the appropriate time. I just wanted to.
So would you
over
need the classic, or would we need the premium, or whatever that was called?
I think we could probably get along with what they call the standard. It's just not as customizable, and there isn't as much functionality on the homepage
Yeah.
than what we even have now, which isn't great, because now you're sending people deeper into the site to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to explain all that and show you examples, but I don't know. You'll have to make a value judgment there once we give you more information on it.
Do you want to go page by the warrant? Because I have a lot of.
Yeah, I would like to. I
comments.
mean, this is just an update of the articles, or the potential articles, and I think we're going to hit them all. Yes, yes. Except for the Council on Aging van.
Which I think should stay on second tier. I have comments on, so tier 1 is perfect the way it is. Tier 2, I think we cover in the warrant, but the only thing that I noticed we didn't cover in the warrant is our additional police vehicles needed at this time.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I was questioning.
Yeah, so here's what I want to bring up, is that we are currently down 2 cruisers. They are non-operational. They're sitting behind the police station, not running. They're the 2 that needed replacement. And so, well, funny enough, the pickup truck, which was one of the ones slated to be replaced, is one of the ones that we're counting on as a line car right now because 2 of the Dodges are down. We also had a deer strike the other night. One of the vehicles it's drivable, it's just dented from the deer. But my concern is, if we don't put this on annual, I was not in favor of doing this. I will tell you, I did not want to do this because it's going to do the same thing, which is we bought 1 Durango in 2020 and we bought 2 Durangos in 21, and now we have this crisis. However, given the 6-month lead time to these vehicles, if we don't do it now and we put it off till fall, we're not going to see that other vehicle for a year and a half. So in knowing that we have the potential for a fire truck at Fall Town Meeting when we get certified free cash, we might want to cross this police cruiser bridge now and put that to tier 1. So that was my
So
thought.
the order went in for the a pickup and a
That's correct. And we,
SUV, and then this would be for an additional,
SUV,
yeah.
right.
Is there any value to the ones sitting down there behind?
The trade-in value, I think at the time we didn't really hear, but they were quoting us somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 because nothing, basically, not enough to make it count. But I think that we should consider putting a police vehicle to tier one.
It does seem like, do you know what years these two cars are? And we don't have to discuss this in depth, but that seems 20 and 21, not that long ago.
It's not that long ago, but here's the problem. So Dodge Durango identified an issue where all police vehicles actually are going away from the Durango. So the coolant comes to the top of the engine and it circulates to keep the engine cool so it doesn't overheat. The Durango's cooling system isn't powerful enough in getting the coolant up to the top to keep the engine from overheating. And because police vehicles run round the clock, they're not keeping up. If you read any news article about the state police, New Hampshire State Police just purchased, I think it was 1,100 Chevy Tahoes because they're getting rid of every Dodge they own. So we're not the only ones having these Dodge problems. They were supposed to be a more comfortable SUV. And now at this point, we can't risk comfort for functionality.
We ordered Ford, right?
We ordered Ford, right. We're going with a Ford Explorer, which is known as the
Looking at
Interceptor.
again,
Correct.
this, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we need to move that to tier one.
Okay, so I'll put that on, and the revolving funds are already on there for your consideration.
They're already on there. And then,
Sewer flows on there for your consideration.
right,
The Council on Aging van, I think, still tier two.
still
right?
tier two.
And then the $50,000,
So I think that's premature. I think we should leave the 50,000. That is still, a group came together. Actually, Peter and I were both at that meeting, and they're still kind of going back and forth between
what they
Memorial
wanna
and,
do.
right.
Yeah.
So I think we leave it alone
Yeah.
for the time being. The next one down, which was review fire department staffing situation, hourly wages, future needs, potential full-time. So the new fire chief is committed to keeping the fire department call as long as humanly possible, and not even looking at a full-time employee. But they are looking at a change in the wage and salary scale from the
I
2469.
already noted in the draft one that they're looking to do that.
Okay, so I guess I must have missed that, because,
The wage and salary scale is its own article, but you won't see numbers there until we actually,
so that was my
it goes in
question.
the booklet.
That was my question, and I circled it and wrote it in here. Is that going to capture any of the departments that we want to change?
Well, so far, the town clerk, yes, because that's in there.
She had her own article, though. That's why I questioned it. She's her very own article in here.
Where's that?
I'm going to tell you. Article 10.
No, that's just a copy of which is on file in the town clerk's office. That's the generic
That's
article.
the generic article. Okay.
So that salary will be listed in the wage and salary scale. When I get a recommended fire department hourly wage, or wages, depending on how they're going to split it up, those will be in the wage and salary scale. They'll all be covered under here. Union employees are covered in the union contracts, and those have separate authorizing votes in Articles 6 and 7.
Okay.
And so as far as the fire, so now we're in February, are they going to write up what they exactly want so that we can come, you know what I'm saying?
That's
Like,
all it's being done through the Finance Committee.
Okay,
So
being done through the Finance
the
Committee, and
liaison
then-
is Josh Franklin, and he's been meeting with the fire chief. I know that the initial meeting was the chair of the Finance Committee as well as the liaison. They met with, I'm not sure, actually, they might have met with Ramey, I'm not sure. But since Christian has now taken over as the chief, I know that Josh has met with him once or twice, and there's another meeting scheduled for next week where both the chair and Josh will be meeting with him again, and they've been trying to shake out the ask. The initial budgets, I know that he's cut the budget significantly as well. The original asks of the budget came in somewhere over 200,000, and he's now down to, or he brought it down from 350 to 220, so he's working numbers to try to make it work, to not be such a big ask.
And then the unsuitable soil pile at the DPW, one of the things we're looking around the site there that came to mind is that there's this large pile of soil that is from when they dig up a trench to either put in a new line or replace or repair something. The unsuitable soil that comes out can't just be treated as common fill. it has to be segregated, and then it needs to be disposed of as like a low-level hazardous fill or hazardous material. And it's accumulated now for quite some time, and the question is, you know, if there's going to be a fuel depot and it goes right in that area, do you connect the two things, or do you just do an article to clear this stuff out, because the fuel depot might not go there anyway?
Right, and so my concern with this, I personally am not in favor of adding anything onto the fuel depot that's an additional cost. Because right now, there are people that don't even feel it's necessary, but our town departments do feel that it's necessary, so it's an important asset for them to have. And if we start piggybacking on extra pavement and removing dirt piles, and this pile happens to be a hazardous pile, the next thing you know, the cost, instead of potentially being a $150,000 or $200,000 fuel depot, it's $400,000, and people are going to go, no way.
Well, and we
So
should
this is
have,
not necessarily where the.
Not necessarily where the depot is going to
necessarily.
go. That's correct. So that has not been determined, but in the first round of meeting, the engineer, the town administrator, and the superintendent prefers that spot, but they would have to clean out the hazardous waste to put it there.
Would that be determined at the site visit tomorrow or whenever it is?
So we're going to have a stakeholders meeting, and we're going to walk the site and talk about pros and cons of all the potential areas.
so
Yeah.
where it's located right now, when's the last time we took care of this? I mean, because
So
it's
this,
not a long time, so.
this is my argument, is that, in my opinion, we shouldn't have the stockpile of hazardous fill. With each time we clean out the sewer drains or, you know, sweep the roads, it should be part of the bid of getting rid of it. It should be hauling and disposal of the hazardous
Right,
material.
sweepings are handled. They're allowed to be mixed into the compost. But this is actually when they dig a trench,
Yeah.
and the material, for whatever reason, is not.
But how many times does our DPW dig a trench? It's generally outsourced
Generally, it's a contractor.
contractor. That
I
should be
will
part of
say
the
this,
bid.
though, when we have a sewer break or when we have a water break, sometimes you're getting the contractor in there, like, literally in the middle of the night, and they're like, where can we put this? And, oh, put it here.
And on
And
top
that's
of
why, I
it,
mean,
it's
to me, it just-
leaching materials out of it. the
Yeah.
Hazardous components.
My issue is that pile has been there for the last 20 years that I've been here, and it's never been dealt with. So it should be something that maybe annually it's dealt with, so that it's not sitting on site and it's not going to be such a huge expense. My only concern about this is I think that we should get rid of it naturally. It shouldn't be sitting there going into our, you know, ground.
Or if there's a way to clean it, you know, I don't know.
I think that would be more
It's-
expensive.
It's good, right. And the only thing is, I would like to keep it a separate article, definitely. I also want to make sure that it's clear that we get 3 quotes before this, because it's going to be expensive, and I don't want to just, I want to make sure we're getting 3 quotes with a request for proposals
So
on
long
this.
as the disposal site is available, there are more than one disposal site available in our area.
Okay.
There may be, there may not be.
Right, but a
Trucking,
hauler,
certainly, trucking, we can get quotes on, but as far as where it's going, pretty sure it's going to Peabody.
it's going to
Or it's going to
Peabody.
cost you even more.
Sure. And I can appreciate that, but I want to make sure that whoever's
Yes.
hauling it, one may
Yep.
be 100 an hour, one could be 200 an hour,
Yes.
so that's going to matter.
Okay, so we could start going through the preliminary warrant. The elected offices that are on the election portion of the warrant are updated. These are coming from the town clerk. Then, if there's going to be an override or overrides, this language also needs to go on the ballot with the elected offices, and here are samples of what that language would look like. Of course, final language has to be reviewed by town council and bond council. But if you split them into a town piece and a school piece, each one would carry an exact figure that would have to be filled in. Article 1 is just, there are some offices that are chosen by town meeting. Then we have the annual report acceptance in Article 2. Article 3 would be just in advance of the Manchester Essex Regional School District budget article, which would be Article 4, because you need to know whether at least town meeting approves of an override before you know exactly how that Article 4 should go.
Can we talk about the numbering of the articles if we have a preference for a change
Yes.
of these? So I don't know if anybody else wanted to renumber them, but I would like to see Article 3 become Article 6. I would like to see Article 4 become Article 7. I would like Article 5 to become Article 3. I would like 6 to become 4, 7 to become 5, 8 to become 9, 9 to become 8. And the reason for that is I would like to see our town business. I want to put my town first. So I want the
Absolutely.
town budget.
It is, our school is our town first. And I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm also want to make sure we think this through.
I think you're going to have a lot more discussion on the floor and a lot more arguing back and forth when we get to the school. I'd like to get through the town business so that we can basically move town meeting along, because there's going to be so much back and forth on the floor. That's going to be the article. Those articles are going to be the ones that are going to stall us. So if we can kind of get through
Some of the town
business,
Yeah.
then it's going to, I think we have a 38 article warrant. Is it
Yeah, it's pretty
38?
big.
It's big. It's,
Yeah.
we're going to be, yeah, 38. So my goal is to try to not make it a 2-night meeting by putting some of the stuff that I think will
So
move
the answer
quickly.
is certainly, you can order these any way you want. This is just a preliminary list of things, and you're seeing the actual text. Do you want to talk about any of the ones down through what's labeled Article 9 right now? Is there anything you want to say about them?
My first one that I want to talk about is 22. How about anybody
So-
else?
22.
I'll just quickly go to connect the dots. Personnel Board, wage and salary scale, Article 10, elected officers, or elected pay scale, Article 11. Septic Betterment Fund is just something that we have an article for every year to appropriate what is due in the coming fiscal year. Then we usually, Articles 13 and 15 are carrying whether there are any changes necessary to the sewer or water enterprise funds for the rest of this fiscal year. 14 and 16 would be for the coming fiscal year. 17 through 21 will be a variety of planning board articles that are listed and that they've actually advertised now for public hearing. So that brings us to 22.
So my question on 22, it's clear that it's just a placeholder, but has there been some discussion about this, or are we analyzing numbers?
I have it here because I want to ask them in an active sense, what have you seen? What do you want to do? And I'll be happy to help analyze that, but I didn't want to just leave it because we don't want to get to town meeting and find out, we should have increased it.
That we're not covering. Okay, so that was just my only question. Article 23. I am fully in favor of these 3 revolving funds. I think it's a brilliant idea. My question is where it says, and to establish a spending limit of $8,000 for the fiscal year 2025. So
Okay,
what
I
is
just
that?
grabbed a number. So in a busy year with the zoning board of appeals and the planning board, you can get advertising, what do you think, Pam, like $600 per, And so, it doesn't mean that they have to have that much throughput, but you have to have a ceiling that's high enough so that they don't
Run out.
get pinched.
Yeah.
Because you have to go back to town meeting to change the ceiling.
But we
So
do
I-
have 2 town meetings a year, so my only concern is human nature is, if I have 8,000 to spend, I'll spend 8,000.
Well, you
they can
don't.
only spend it on advertising.
Okay,
It's not actually funded in there, this is talking about throughput.
okay,
The money comes in from the applicant, the money goes out to the Gloucester Times.
Got it.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
got it.
But we will need an article to fund it, because we
Well-
need to start it with something.
No, because we talked about that. The planning board, and I talked about that earlier, can still have its own line item, in its budget, have a line item for planning board advertising.
Yeah, okay, all
And
right.
that would cover enough advertising for 2 town meetings a year.
Okay.
If there's zoning at each town meeting. That's the plan.
And so they
This is
can
all
borrow
that-
from Peter
so
to pay
it's-
Paul.
it's-
They're going to just go back and forth.
No, that's just money in the budget.
Okay.
But what this does is it allows the budget not to carry these high amounts when it's not money that, right now, we're putting a lot of money in the budget only so we can get the money back from the applicant, but that goes into the general fund. Meanwhile, we're holding the budget hostage to money that doesn't need to be there.
Okay.
That's 8,000 each?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what we have, what I've set up is that this is payment to advertisers for advertisements. That's why the
Yep.
planning, the ZBA and the Conservation Commission, those are all applicant-based. But as you brought up, the planning board does have 2 town meetings a year where it's planning board-based, but that would not commingle with this.
Okay.
It would just be,
Is 8,000 enough for the Conservation Commission?
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna ask each one of them.
Find out what they
Yeah.
are. It seems like zoning board of appeals would be the least, and probably the.
Probably.
Concom the most, and then planning board maybe.
Yeah, and you know, if we find over a period of years that it only comes to 5,000, well, then maybe you reduce it at another, but it really doesn't mean a lot.
No.
So, and Peter, I don't think was at the last meeting, so Article 24 will need some explanation. Were you at the last meeting, Peter?
No, I wasn't.
No, so if you can give him a little bit of background on Article 24 before we discuss
So
that.
Main Street Antiques is closing, and they have a purchase and sale agreement in place with Costello Construction and Remodeling. And Costello wants to come in and build 16 two-bedroom units
Okay, wow.
within the setbacks that are available on the property, within the height restriction that's limited by zoning. And so he feels he has everything he needs, except for the fact that he doesn't have enough wastewater flow. Now, you could purchase up to 1,000 gallons of wastewater flow by just going to the Board of Public Works, but he's going to need about 2,000 gallons. And you might recall that we had the Rivers Bend and the brewery both came in when they wanted to expand, and they came through town meeting. So this is the first time, though, that somebody's asking for additional flow to the town meeting for residential purposes.
Yeah,
Well, for residential.
yeah.
And this individual, Sean Costello, indicated that he would definitely think about putting affordable units on the table. And I haven't gotten an answer back about over 55, I'm sorry. I haven't gotten his answer back on whether he was considering that as well.
So would it be the typical 25% affordable?
Based on, well, we don't have prescriptive
but-
zoning.
but
So he
that- but
talked
that's
about
what it
what's in place in Gloucester, and he said for a development of this size, it would probably be 2 units of the 16. So that's what, it's an eighth.
Yeah, that's an eighth.
Can we, before we make a determination of whether or not we keep that on there, I would love to hear back about the possibility of over 55. Because that's.
I did reach out, but I haven't heard back. I'll ask again.
Okay.
So would we be looking for both? I mean, like, is it
You
going to be
might.
apartment buildings or condos?
You might be
Condos,
For sale.
for sale.
We'd be looking at over 55 and affordable housing.
right, and the affordable housing would be not a controlled rent. It would be when it's resold, it can only go to a certain
Yeah.
threshold
Yeah.
in a sale price. So I'll ask about that again. Then you have the 2 articles that deal with leasing of town property. That's been a long-standing practice. With respect to the Greenbow Corporation, the value is such there that it doesn't need to be put out to bid. And in fact, nobody would bid on it because it's talking about a corner of the property that goes underneath the restaurant. Article 26 has a potential value, and what has usually happened is town meeting will authorize it, and then we have to go out with a request for proposals on that.
And, so, excuse my ignorance, but what is the Legion Hall?
The Shipbuilding Museum in front of the ancient
The
cemetery.
archives, yeah. Then Article 27, the board asked, is there a way to put a penalty out there, because there is none right now, for a business that is operating without a required license. And so I've put something together, town council will have to review it, and I think we were talking about something like $50 a day, but I don't know if the board has comments on that.
Who decides when that starts and if it actually does happen?
It starts on the first of the year when they're licensed. All of the licenses that we sign expire on December 31st. So
Automatic,
they automatically,
unless we decide that it isn't going to happen automatically?
Or they don't
or
apply,
they don't apply.
or they apply, but they can't get their license because they owe taxes. There's many different
Right,
scenarios.
yeah.
So it's possible that eventually they pay their taxes, but it's February 1st. Well, they might have to pay,
Fees. And the reason we came up with the 50 per day is that's what already exists for antiques licenses. So this was for all other businesses that weren't captured, so we already have this for antiques
Okay, right,
licenses.
okay.
So it was more to just mimic that. It wasn't something kind of,
Arbitrarily,
yeah.
So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I was on the fence, and so I was thinking, okay, well, what if I'm having a tough time? Can I come to you in December and say, listen, I'm having a tough time. I'm planning on selling in January, like that type of thing.
Well, and I think that, fees are generally up to the board's discretion, so, but if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist.
Correct.
Then there's nothing you can do.
Okay.
then we have something that the Board of Public Works put off in the fall, which is they still want to have an engineering study evaluating the 3 town-owned bridges. So that's on there.
So
Is there any idea of the cost?
They have not given me any details on it yet.
And my question on that is, that I get my little feathers up whenever we look at these warrants, when the language says, "and anything incidental thereto," or "take any other action relating thereto."
Right.
Because I don't like it to encompass things that weren't intended. So how do we feel about that, where this is specifically
Well,
for a
the
study?
The second part, take any other action relating thereto, is generic, and that means in the event that the language of the article left something out that's related enough to put it in the motion, that it would happen. The incidental thereto is something town council actually likes to see about the main feature of the article, because if you're doing an engineering study, and that requires that they do some test borings, let's say, and it doesn't say test borings in there, that might be incidental to so they like that to be
Okay.
included. Otherwise, you sometimes get down the road and you're doing a project and, we need one of these. Well, the article didn't say you were gonna have one of those.
Right, yeah.
So the second one is recommended only to capture something that you didn't talk about in enough detail in the actual article, so you can put it in the motion. And the first one, the incidental, is recommended by council.
I understand. Okay.
Article 29 is the fuel depot and the engineering services for the oversight on that project.
I'm sorry, can I go back to the bridge thing?
Yeah.
So the 3 town bridges. So is it Landing Place Road?
Landing Road,
Not the one to the dump, that's one of the bridges, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But the other one, what's the other one? Essex Place?
Essex Park,
Is that the one that with the business down the end, the Brook Valley?
yeah.
Okay, so there's a bridge there. Is that included in one of the 3 bridges?
you mean where Going is?
We're not that one, the
It's
one
not a
at Essex
major.
Park where the OSRD is going, where John Bell lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's considered a
And
bridge,
the reason
a
I
major
happen
bridge.
to not notice it before, I don't know why, in 21 years, but I guess because we're talking bridges, I kind of was looking, I said, oh, look at that, that's really pretty. Wait, that has a bridge? I didn't know that was a
You're
bridge.
talking about Essex Park Road?
Essex Park Road.
I don't think it's considered a major bridge, but I will find out,
Well,
because
the
they've
only
talked
reason
about
if-
these 3.
The part that I was kind of questioning is if they build that, if
The
that neighborhood
OSRD.
goes through, and that's going to increase traffic on that, we
Yeah,
should make sure
it's a
that
good-
that bridge doesn't.
It's a good point.
But actually,
That's something
if
that
that's
the
something
builder
that the
would have to-
developer should actually consider, they should pay to fix that bridge if they're going to have that kind of capacity going over it.
Yeah,
I just,
definitely.
like I said, I didn't even know there was a bridge until I saw the snow on top of the rocks, and I went, wait, that's a bridge?
Yeah,
So,
okay. Okay, the
Sorry.
fuel depot, which would be the construction money and the oversight by the engineer during construction.
So on Article 30, I have a question. So I circle in the last sentence, sale or trade. My concern here, I know that there was a conversation about actually passing it down to the DPW. My concern with that is building the fleet, having one person per vehicle, which now we have, one person per vehicle driving around, but it also equals increased fuel. So I'm wondering if it's not this particular vehicle, if they would be willing to trade in the oldest vehicle or the vehicle with the most problems, so that we're not seeing a built fleet, an increase in fleet.
And not pass it down to,
Because they were going to pass, I don't know which truck it was, but I remember
yeah,
hearing.
I have that written down somewhere.
I remember hearing at Fall Town Meeting that they
One
wanted.
was going to go to fire, one was going to go to DPW highway.
So the fire one is the next one coming in. That was the water truck, was going to fire. And then this one was supposed to go to DPW. So I guess we need to know how much of a fleet they already have. And then we need to extrapolate the additional cost of fuel
The fleet of the DPW.
of the DPW.
Yeah, I can get all that for you. Article 31. This is just more money to hopefully make progress to the end of the upgrades for the grinder pumps. That comes from the enterprise fund. For discussion, this is the talk about the soil, the contaminated soil that we just talked about. Article 33, now that we have the camera system expanded to where we can do remote cameras, we have them at the Centennial Grove, there is a way to put a camera on the water filtration plant so that it is monitored, the front of the building. And I looked at a cost for that, and it's not anything they can do within their existing budget. It's probably around $7,000, and that includes getting it all the way tied into our system so that it's monitored at the police station. That would have to be with water retained earnings. I would imagine you wouldn't support general fund money for this.
So is
that
this something
incre-
that's happening? So, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just asking, is this a requirement as upgrading the water filtration?
The superintendent feels as if, they are asked about it from time to time by the DEP, and they feel as if it's just a matter of time until it's mandated. So now that we have the infrastructure and a way to monitor it and record it, this would be the time. Prior to that, we didn't really have a way to do this. We weren't going to set up a video server special for this, but now we could feed into it.
But, so back to Article 33, though, we're going to now have a camera on showing the front of the building, somebody potentially coming in the front door. But I asked at the last union contract negotiations about cameras inside the building, because that's our water supply. It's our drinking water. So how do we make sure that somebody isn't entering the building, so you see somebody enter the building? How do you know if they've done something to our water supply once in the building? And I know you argue back and said that's union negotiations.
Which
because
it
it's-
still can be.
But I think that having cameras in the building is important. It's our drinking water. But I equally think that we should have cameras at our tower over on,
There's no way to do that right now unless you set up some kind of radio link, which is a different thing, but you could get the receiver at the water plant and then
Just-
get it into the system.
the concern is this is our drinking water supply, and having security on it, I agree that we need it. But I equally think that we need to watch what's going on in the building, making sure that our
Well,
supply
and I
is
think you're
safe.
right as far as who walks in the building
Yep.
is important. I don't,
Well, okay,
because
so
we have so much equipment there. When you walk in there, I think it's less now that they've gone a little
It's
bit
a
more
lot less.
electronic. But,
well,
and-
I only
We're
put this on,
talking
just,
after hours, right? I mean, if somebody goes in when the building's open, it doesn't really matter because there are people in there, correct?
there's a beep that goes off, they know that the door opened, stuff like
so-
that. But this was just intended to be like the first phase. I mean, do you
Yeah.
want a camera out front as a start? If you
Yes.
want to look at cameras within the building, then we can put that on for negotiations.
That's,
Take a note
I'll
of
leave
that.
I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah,
And as
so
far
maybe
as
that-
the water tower, is it something you want to look at now, fund both of these together? I mean, it would come from the water department budget, not from the general fund. So they would have to have the money for it. And the radio link thing's gonna be pretty expensive, but
Worth asking them.
Yeah, okay.
It's worth asking. I just am
Have we had
surprised.
any issues, though, at the tower?
No, but terrorism is at an all-time high. I mean, if you're gonna hurt a town, what are you gonna go after?
Right.
Well, I'll ask about
I still
those
think they
things.
drive through Essex and go right into Ipswich or Manchester. They don't even know we're here.
They might practice on Essex.
They do now.
No, I'm just throwing it out there. And then Article 34, I think we're gonna remove.
Yeah, you said keep
Yep.
that on hold. Article 35 would be the regular Community Preservation Act article. Article 36 would be if we need to make any adjustments to the fiscal '25 budget.
To pay our
20
bills.
What's that? I'm sorry?
To pay our bills.
Well, that's like if you found that, some accounts out of whack and something
Yeah.
happened. But to pay the unpaid bills, that would be Article 38, and I know of at least one right now from a past fiscal year. And then Article 37 is what if the Finance Committee's reserve fund is depleted to a certain point, do they want to replenish it? And that's it.
Great.
Can I bring us back to Article 9?
Yeah.
Essex Tech, have we gotten anything preliminaries or information, whether it's budget or number of students?
The number of students at Essex Tech decreased by 2. The preliminary number that I got is that our increase may be only a couple $1,000s, but we don't have the vote on that yet. It's coming soon.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because
But
we've
it's
had...
probably going to be relatively where it was last year. It's not going up appreciably.
Okay. Kind of sad that we're down by 2.
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion to approve the weekly warrant in the amount of $101,360.04.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the Selectmen's January 27th, 2025 open meeting and executive session.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is to consider whether a member of the Board of Selectmen desires to serve on the Community Preservation Committee or otherwise appointed designee. So the issue that I have with this is I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, and the Affordable Housing Trust has made several attempts to go to the Community Preservation Committee for funding the trust. So I wouldn't be able to vote and I wouldn't be able to present. So I don't necessarily think I'm the right person to serve on that.
Why do we want to have a selectman on this at this?
You don't have to, so what the bylaw says is that the selectmen have 2 potential appointees. One of them is truly someone appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The other one is a selectman or their designee. So technically, there's never been a selectman on it.
Right, yeah.
But now that we have that seat vacant, that could either be a selectman or you find another designee. It's your option, but I don't know of anyone right now. Maybe it's something you want to think about and bring it to a future meeting.
I would like to think about it, because I was looking at the website and trying to decide. Right now, I am unemployed and yes, may retire, and if I knew that for sure, I'd say yes.
The one thing a plug, if you were interested, that I will give you is that the Community Preservation Committee, generally speaking, only meets once or twice a year. So they meet just before each of the town meetings, annual town meeting and fall town meeting. Seldom do they have multiple meetings in a year, so it's not a heavy lift. And even when they do have a meeting, I've never been to a community preservation. Right. I mean, I've never been to one that was more than an hour. So it's not a big lift. I will just,
And that's why I'm asking, because I'm wondering if there's a need for a selectman oversight as opposed to a selectman appointee.
I don't think there is.
Yeah.
It's just the bylaw gives you that option.
yeah.
If one of you said, you know what, I really want to delve into
Right.
that, then it would be an easy
Well,
decision.
and the other thing is finding an appointee.
But, well, that's
right,
true.
then we have to start asking. So we'll table that and you think about it?
Table it.
Okay.
I mean, because there is a part of me that says, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it could be interesting, you know.
And having
but
it
it's
part of,
not
so
very
that
active.
whoever comes into the select role may have to do this additional. If it's only 2 meetings a year, I mean,
Yeah.
if it was more than that, I would probably have to think about it, but 2 times a
It
year. I'm
really
like,
isn't, it hasn't been
It
either.
hasn't been.
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion to ratify the chairman's signature of the Maya member application for professional and cyber liability insurance for fiscal year 2026.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to ratify the chairman's signature of the renewal proposal for the town's drone insurance policy.
So moved.
Do we have a drone?
We do have a drone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we received a drone through a Maya grant several years ago. It is housed at the police department, and we have a drone pilot on both the police and the fire department. They use it for searches.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it was a free piece of equipment, but we do have to keep insurance. I will entertain a motion to approve the commercial shellfish permit and the senior commercial shellfish permit as listed.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to approve the non-resident shellfish permit contingent upon receiving the information outlined on the application from Judd Lane.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
So this is a full year, like, I'm just, like, really flabbergasted that somebody from Princeton would have a shellfish license.
These questions come up every year, and I ask the same thing. Why do we do these non-resident shellfish permits? And I think we're required to. Is that accurate? I know
Not-
you've looked into it
Not
for
an
me.
annual. I believe you're required to issue the PEC license. And we looked at whether there should be a change to the annual, and I'll look it up again, because we came to some resolution. Maybe that is required as well. I got to look it up again.
But one of the things that we did do, Alva, is that the language on the application changed to include, previously it was just sponsored by somebody in town. So, you know, Mickey Mouse could reach out to Alva Ingahara and say, will you sponsor me? And you could say, sure, no problem. Now we've required that the person sponsoring the person actually provides a copy of their driver's license, their tax bill, and a copy of their census to prove that they've done it. So in doing so, we're capturing a true resident and making sure that they've done all the required things before they're sponsoring people. And just Judd did sign the application, but didn't provide the personal information that we requested. So that's why I did that contingent. Okay. And we did all vote aye on that, yes? Did you second it? Yeah, okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the common victualer's license for Mayflower.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to approve the 3 one-day wine and malt licenses as listed, with a change that the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce has listed for Saturday, June 14th, and a rain date of June 15th. And as we know, we do not allow rain dates for wine and malt licenses, so that will be removed. There is no rain date. So I will approve them as listed, removing the rain date.
So what would happen if there was going to be rain that week? Would they have to come into us with the change?
With a change.
So is that a rain date thing that's a state issue? Because I was looking at this saying, no rain date? Why wouldn't you have a rain date? It's a year for, it's months from now.
So we allow rain dates for the one-day entertainment,
Yeah.
but not the one-day wine and malt.
But is that the town's doing, or is that the state's doing?
It's the town.
Because it's alcohol, you know.
And the issue with the wine and malt is, let's say that Mayflower is going to have on here, Mayflower is going to have a Valentine's Day cocktail hour from 3 to 6. And the police department knows that on Friday, the 14th, they're going to be serving alcohol. It may make them more aware that alcohol will be served, so they're going to watch people leaving that establishment. If they have a rain date for Sunday, and they don't know if it took place on Friday or it's taking place on Sunday, that could be an issue. So they want to know specifically when it is. The other thing was, I'm not sure if you were on, but we had a local restaurant who came to us, and they got alcohol licenses for every Saturday and Sunday through the whole summer. And it rained most of the summer, so they came back and said, well, I want credit, because they can only get 30 a year. So they came back and said, well, I want credit for those 10 weekends that didn't work out in my favor. I'd like to use them as a credit. And we said, no, you paid for them, they're gone, the rain happened, nothing we can do. So we wouldn't want to change that we've been doing that for other people.
Yeah, no, I think we should think about it. We're talking, first of all, they're very good about coming to us very early.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know these are 2 outdoor events that the town loves.
Yep.
That's the only reason, and we know that sometimes we've had to have a rain date, and that's the only reason I'm saying that.
So we did all vote in favor of the wine and malt, and then
I have an update on the shellfish thing.
Go ahead.
So the reason that you do have to offer an annual non-resident is because the law says you can only differentiate among people with respect to the fee charged. And so when we looked into it, if we're issuing an annual resident permit, which we want to issue, you have to also issue an annual non-resident permit. The fee can be different.
And there was something in that opinion that came to us that said something about must live in the Commonwealth. I remember the
Yes.
That'd be
language.
something to do with state waters, you know.
Right, it is,
jurisdiction.
it is.
It was.
You must live in the Commonwealth, but you don't have to live in Essex.
In
And it's
Essex.
because it's a resource of the Commonwealth.
Right.
Right,
To an extent. So,
perfect, thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the one-day entertainment licenses as listed.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to approve the common victular license as listed.
So
Some-
moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We received a request from the Union Stewart and the DPW to change the job description for the water treatment operator. Everyone should be in possession of that. Were there any questions on that before I take a motion? It looks like they're just trying to change the qualifications of obtaining the necessary 2T, 1D within 1 year instead of 2 years. And, yep, and then they want to make sure that we'll work overtime on a first priority basis on water breaks, plant emergencies, grinder pumps, sewer emergencies, sanding, plowing, funerals. And then they want to include must work various shifts, including Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. So they're adding holidays to the need.
I was okay with it. The only thing that I do know that I've seen the water department like painting hydrants, and is that covered in here, or could somebody complain if they were asked to do that? Because I know it does say in 11 and 12, maintain equipment and facilities under blah, 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 and then works on ground buildings, roadways with the DPW activities. So I
Says
just,
may be called upon to perform any other duties called for and
Okay.
licensed for, not of a supervisory manner. So I think it's covered.
okay, great. I just wanted to make sure.
I will entertain a motion to approve the water operator position description as listed, dated, bear with me, 1/23/2025.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Reminders that the next regular Board of Selectmen's meeting will take place on Monday, February 24th, 2025, at 6 p.m. in the third-floor auditorium of Town Hall, 30 Martin Street. The Planning Board will be holding a public hearing on Wednesday, March 5th, 2025, starting at 7:15 p.m. in the third-floor auditorium regarding proposed changes to the Essex zoning bylaw. This is not on our agenda, but just a reminder that we will be meeting this Friday, February 14th at 8 a.m., second floor stage for police chief interviews, provided that both candidates are available. At this time, I invite people for public comment. Janet, I know that you've been so patiently waiting. If you'd like to join us at the podium, and if you can speak 6 inches away from the microphone so that everybody listening can capture you, and just your name and address, please.
Janet Carlson, 24 Apple Street. As you know, I emailed a letter from 4 residents pertaining to the proposed diesel fuel depot. And Chairman Perrine, you suggested that I read it tonight, read it into the record. Thank you. So, and the letter is addressed to each of you as well as to Nick Ellis at the DPW. As you discuss potential locations for the proposed diesel fuel depot project, we urge you to eliminate the land at 30 Apple Street from your consideration. We question the justification and value of this project. The ballpark cost, $225,000, is a lot of diesel fuel. But beyond that, a fuel depot at 30 Apple Street would be an incredible eyesore on that beautiful field. It is illogical not to use DPW-owned land at the transfer station or 44 Centennial Grove Road, or most logically at the Public Safety Building site on John Wise Avenue, where the vehicles are garaged. According to a contractor we consulted, a reinforced slab with adequate footings would be all that's needed for locating a fuel depot near the existing DPW buildings at the transfer station, even if on filled land. There appears to be no issue whatsoever with the stability of the foundation of the existing building. Also to note, the town already has an easily accessed electrical service and a generator there. Please don't consider spoiling the precious open green space at 30 Apple Street when other viable options are available. Thank you. Sincerely, myself and Rick and Pam Marullo, 36 Apple Street, Jack Gale, 105 Pond Street. And I'd also like to ask for clarification about something that was said earlier about hazardous site, some soil, and potential cost of cleaning that up. I couldn't quite hear where that's located or if it's definitely located.
Shall I
Yes, please,
provide
thank
this?
you.
Okay, so at the DPW yard, where the transfer station is and where the trucks are, there is a pile of material that has been there for some time that when the DPW opens up a trench, perhaps to repair a sewer line or a water line, sometimes that material can't go back into the trench because it's not suitable to backfill, and it may have a low level of contamination from perhaps whatever was in the trench, or perhaps because it's underneath a road, that type of thing. This is not high-level hazardous waste, but it can't be just disposed of as common fill. It has to go to an approved area disposal facility. There's one of these in Peabody. The amount, I believe, is something in the order of $60 per ton. And right now, the Board of Public Works is trying to get an idea of what the total cost would be. They have to get an estimate of how many tons of material they have, et cetera. And this is just something they've been wanting to do for a long time, and it really needs to be taken away and put elsewhere.
But where is that pile? Is it something we see when
It's
we?
behind the building, Janet. It's out behind the building where,
I see.
it's the tool shed building.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Can I ask, is there anybody else?
Let me just see, is it about this, Alva, or do you want me to take public comment from online and then you can ask? Yep.
take public
Is there anybody, or looks like, Jody, you're the only one online. Do you have a public comment this evening? Okay, no public comment.
So actually, I'm going to go back to BZ. He had the meeting with the Council on Aging. So 2 subjects came up to me this week from different residents. One being, actually 3 subjects. One being private plows that push snow across the street onto the sidewalks. Who would you report that to? Is that something you report? Because I didn't report my issue with anybody, but the other person who lives on Main Street tried calling the owner of the business that was being plowed, and nobody answered. So I'm just like, is that something,
You would report it to the police.
report it to the police?
But you're
Okay.
obviously gonna want information on the contractor so that they can actually be contacted, because they probably won't be there when the police come by. They'll be long gone.
Yeah, and I mean, because the person who talked to me said, I cleaned the whole sidewalk off, and then they went and plowed the driveway, the parking lot across the street and pushed it up on the sidewalk, making the sidewalk from a sidewalk, to this.
Is that a town violation or a state violation?
Well, I think it would be town, but I'd have to look deeper into the bylaw as to what it would fall under.
Yeah.
So, and for me, I know that, and I'm gonna pick on, Evans Way is a private street. That plow almost, and it's different people, so I don't know, like, I wouldn't even know who to say who it is, because a lot of times it's just a truck with a plow on it.
Well, if it happened on a private road, the police won't get involved,
No, they push it across the street, across
Onto-
Monton, onto the side.
which is a public road.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I see.
And that kind of, it's happened before, and I haven't said anything, but it's really, the plow, our town did the work of cleaning the sidewalks as best they could, and then this pushes snow and then
Probably a plate number you'd need.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to get up at 2 in the morning then. So that was one thing I just wanted to bring up. The second thing I wanted to bring up was, they questioned Centennial Grove, and I'm trying to remember what time, when the camp is in session, what is the time that the public can go there again? And I'm gonna say,
They can go there-
with dog on leash.
They can, on a weekday, they can go there before 9 or after 1 o'clock.
It's 1 o'clock. So I said to them, because they said, we can't go there till 4, and I said,
It's not true.
I thought it was 1:30, but, so it is
1,
1.
and on a weekend, of course, anytime, on a holiday, anytime. It's just
Okay.
weekdays while the camp is in session.
So I was sure that it was misinformation, and I wanted to make sure.
This comes up frequently, and I tell the person, but then someone else puts it out there, and even if they wanted to walk their dog before 9, they can do that. And a lot of people are out early in the morning.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
not a problem.
And one of the comments was, well, we don't even get anything for that. And I said, well, no, we do get, Essex residents, children get a discount.
They get a discount.
And the sidewalks, I think that's it. So
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
So-
Janet. Have a good night.
With that, I'm going to recommend that the board move into executive session to discuss collective bargaining concerning a possible successor agreement with the Essex Police Association and with AFSCME, and also for strategy session in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And that the chair declare that an open discussion of the union matters would be detrimental to the town's negotiating position, and to an extent with the non-union discussion, and that the board will not, the chairman also declared that the board will not be returning to open session this evening.
I will entertain a motion to move into executive session by roll call vote.
Peter Fippen, aye?
Alvin Gaharo, aye.
Ruth Perine, aye.